Hello, so this is the first video for the discussion on Louise Glück's Circes Grief. Okay, but before we get into that, we first need to talk about the Odyssey. And the reason why we need to do that is because of the kind of project that Circes Grief belongs to. Okay, so you can find Circes Grief in Louise Glück's second poetry collection, which is Meadowlands. And in Meadowlands, what she does is that she talks through the characters of Odysseus and Penelope, or husband and wife, and some other mythological characters. And what she does is that she gives them real people problems. So instead of worrying about magic and offending gods and avoiding sea monsters, instead she makes them deal with um, different kind of monster, like the kind that you have to face when your marriage is breaking down, which is essentially what she uses Odysseus and Penelope for. Right now, who are Odysseus and Penelope? So they both belong to Homer's epic poem, the Odyssey. So this happens at right after the Trojan War ends. Okay, now in the Odyssey, it covers the journey of Odysseus, who is the king of Ithaca, and his journey home. It takes him 10 years to do that because he manages to anger Poseidon right when he's within sight of Ithaca. He angers Poseidon, and as punishment, he Poseidon kind of makes them go the long way home. So it gives them lots of trials and tribulations, and he has to escape them all in order to get home. Okay, so here we'll find Penelope, who's his wife, and they have a son named Telemachus, and they're all waiting for him back home. And this woman, Penelope, you have here the image of a woman who is very, very devoted. She basically waited him for around 20 years. So the entire Trojan War took maybe 10 years or so, and then the journey back home from the Trojan War also took 10 years. So can you imagine anyone more devoted than that? 20 years, and they didn't have any technology then. There's no cell phone, there's no Skype, there's nothing. You know, she basically waited for him for 20 years without any word, without any kind of reassurance that he was even going back to her. Like that, I guess that devotion is okay, amazing. All right, so that's Penelope. Okay, so she would wait for him. She would wait for him by knitting this loom, which is supposed to be a death shroud. And the reason why she does that is to make the suitors stay away, because she said, because the thing is, okay, so she's queen of the kingdom, and there's no king for a really long time, and people are telling her, okay, you need to remarry, you need to choose one of your suitors in order to have a king for Ithaca. And since Penelope is definitely convinced that Odysseus is going home, she tries to knit a death shroud. Um, and she says when she finishes the shroud, that's the time when she will consider remarrying. But what she does at night is that she kind of undoes what she knitted the whole day. So then she starts over again. So I guess she did it for like 10 years. All right. So yeah, you have there just that image of her as a very devoted wife, long suffering devoted wife. All right. Then when we see Poseidon here now, we find out that he's been, for the first 7 years of his journey, he was actually held captive by Calypso, who is a sorceress, because she wanted to be his wife. Okay, then he manages to escape that. And in his escape, he lands in the island of Aea, where Circe lives. All right, so now the moment that okay, yeah, they're our tiger queen. All right, so when they land in Aea, they find that the whole island is surrounded by tame mountain lions and wolves and swine, and these are generally very vicious and wild creatures. But then around her, they're tame. And the thing is, the reason why they're tame is because these are the people that she has enchanted, and then turned into animals. So that's why they're all under her control. So that's why they're tame. Okay, so immediately you get a sense that, oh, this woman is dangerous. She's powerful. And she's also like this seductress. All right. And she lures the men of Odysseus in with promises of a banquet of cheese and wine. And of course, because she's very knowledgeable in herbs, um, she has this power over them, mostly because she's a sorceress slash goddess slash nymph. Okay, so all those, so the goddess part she got from her father, who is the sun god Helios, and the nymph part. So nymphs are famous for, seducing men and enchanting men, and getting them to do what they want these men to do. So she got that from her mother, who's a nymph. Her mother is Perse, and then I guess the sorceress part, she did that all on her own. Okay, so that's how powerful she is. So she lures them in with cheese and wine. Then that cheese and wine is of course infused with herbs that will turn them into pigs. And the only one who was able to survive that was Odysseus, because he was helped by Hermes. Hermes. I've always pronounced this Hermes, but Hermes is the bag, I guess. So, okay, let's just go with Hermes. All right, so Hermes told him, in order to escape her magic, you need to take the herb of Molly. Molly? Moly. Moly. I think it's Moly. Because Molly is the drug, the slang for ecstasy, I think. Maybe that's where they got the name. I don't know. But okay, so that one's Molly. This one's probably pronounced Moly. Let's go with Moly so that it won't sound like a drug. Okay, so yeah, so it was the herb that helped him escape the magic of Circe. So since he still has his wits about him, he then forced her to turn his pigs, turn his men back into human beings instead of pigs, and and Circe followed him. Okay, and then she turned them back into human beings, and you would think that they would escape, but no. They stayed in her island for one more year, just drinking and partying. Okay, and then after that 1 year of just partying, Circe gave them supplies, and then also gave Odysseus some tips on how to appease the god Poseidon and how to escape um, that punishment that he was giving Odysseus, so he could go back home to his wife. Like, imagine that. All right, so she let him go in the end, and of course, Odysseus left, and then more trials and tribulations, and then he was able to get back home to his wife, and then of course happily ever after. Okay, so that's the end of the Odyssey. All right, so well, anyway, that's how Odysseus tells the story anyway. So remember, for the Odyssey, the hero is Odysseus, and we only get to know Circe through the story of Odysseus, because he's the one retelling this. Okay, and in his version, they stayed in her island for one more year because she seduced him. But apparently her seduction has a time frame. Okay, I'm gonna seduce you for 1 year, and then I will let you go. Alright, so that was Odysseus's version. Okay? But now, when we get to Circes Grief, Louise Glück's version of what happened to Circe, we get to see a different version of Circe. It for the first time she's now speaking for herself, and we'll get into that later. All right, so let's start with, of course, always the reading of the poem. Circes Grief by Louise Glück. In the end, I made myself known to your wife as a god would in her own house in Ithaca. A voice without a body, she paused in her weaving, her head turning first to the right, then left. though it was hopeless, of course, to trace that sound to any objective source. I doubt she will return to her loom with what she knows now. When you see her again, tell her, this is how a god says goodbye. If I'm in her head forever, I am in your life forever. What a saucy little minx. Okay, so yeah, so this one's fun. Yeah. All right. So anyway, yeah, so that's it. No, that's not it. Go to the next video for our discussion on Circe's Grief.